Somebody very tiny was wearing my backpack. I'm so stuck. Oh my God, that's the wrong button. It's like my back is being suffocated. Okay. Wow. That was ridiculous. Well, what's up guys? Welcome to a tiny bag episode apparently. So we are back at the catwalk and we are here to test a new feature on the phone, and we're at the catwalk because this is the only place in like a 200-mile radius of my house that has water because I live in the desert. So let's go up there. So I don't know if this is on any other phone. I have the S23 Ultra. Oh, Camera Lady has the S22. You do, huh? I'm gonna check hers and see if she has it too. I don't know if it's an Ultra model thing or what, but Samsung just released the option for electronic neutral density filters. So we're gonna go try that. I have some regular filters too for the phone, some of my Freewell filters. This is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form by anybody. This is just me being curious about a new feature. So let's get on the trail and go see what's up. And we're gonna test out to see how good this electronic voodoo neutral density filter works. Sometimes it snows in the desert and it makes all these rocks a little treacherous. And that tree did not used to be there a couple of months ago. This is all ice, Brittany. Oh yeah. Well, we're gonna have some interesting compositional changes to work with. Also, it's 60 degrees right now, so like it's warm. Like it's too warm for this. Like I'm burning up, but there's still snow down here because of the shade in the canyon. So I guess I'm gonna still try to figure out if we can photograph this waterfall. Oh yeah, we could get around it. I guess we could just sit on top of this thing. All right, well, this is gonna have to work because there's the only waterfall that we can get to right now is that one. So photographically speaking, this is not going to be the most amazing shot ever. Also, these little green bugs are all over me again in January. Why are there bugs in January? Okay, so let's just get right into it. Let me turn on my screen recording bit. Okay, so to do this, you're gonna need Expert Raw app. And in this new phone, in the new S23 Ultra, they have the extension. If you don't have it, you can go to the More and click here. If you don't have it installed, it'll ask you to download it. So here it is. Look, I was already messing with it. You can see right here the ND filter. This was the previous option. I did a video about this last summer, and this was the multi-exposure mode where it kind of blended. It kind of tried to do what a Pixel does, but it failed miserably. It was horrible. So now we have this guy. If we click on the ND, oh look, down here we have the strength for the ND. So ND 1000, that's like a 10 stop. That's pretty dark. And then all the way down to 2. So you'll notice as I do that, you can see the darkness change. Let me try to get this on a tripod. So you're gonna do a long exposure, you kind of need it to be not moving. Why is this not coming off? There we go. All right, let's see what we got here. This is gonna be a little weird. So we'll try this without any of the filters and all that stuff. So first we'll just do just the phone. Oh, but I do need my thingy. All right, check this out. So this is my little Ulanzi tripod. I love it. It's probably my favorite travel tripod. I use it for phone stuff because it's the smallest one I have, but it also works really well for if you have, you know, bigger gear, it can support it. Again, none of this is sponsored. This is all just the gear that I have and I use. Right now, I have the Peak Design case and I have the Peak Design clippy bit. So it's magnetic and it clips onto there. And this is Arca Swiss, which is the type of plate. So it just goes right into here like that. And there we are. All right, let's see. I'm gonna put the screen recording on and we'll see what we get. So when you have the ND filter selected, I have it on 128 right now. Now I have access to my shutter speed, 1/6 of a second, ISO 50, which is what I want. I want the lowest ISO possible. Let's give that a go. Let's, that's too dark. Cool. Wow, this is gonna let me do a 2-second. And I'm only at ND 128, which means I can go all the way up to 1000, which means that's a lot darker. All right, so I'm gonna tell you right now, initially, I'm impressed. This is impressive. The only thing that's a bummer that you will never be able to replicate is a circular polarizer. But for just needing a long exposure, this is incredible. Okay, this is infinitely better than that stupid multiple exposure mode that I tried last summer. Okay, so before we wrap up, one more thing. I'm gonna show you a photo without, in just regular pro mode without the ND filters on. So I'm just gonna come into pro mode and I'm just, with no filters or anything, to get a proper exposure, it says I need 1/60th or faster of a shutter speed. So that's the wide shot. It still gave me a 60th. So that's the difference. That's a 60th of a second versus the 2 seconds when or greater when I turned on the electronic ND filter. That's a huge difference. I think I'm gonna get off this sketchy tree and try to go take some more photos around here, and then we'll go somewhere where there's no water and I'll edit them on the phone so you can see what we can get out of this. Because I'm also curious what they're gonna look like after I edit them and everything, make sure the quality is still as good as, you know, the regular stuff. And I'm still shooting in RAW, so that's the important bit.
Alright, so we're back in the studio. I did some other tests and some other shots and all that kind of stuff, and I definitely got a better feel for what's going on. Let's go ahead and jump into the images. I haven't edited any of them yet, but I want to show you what it's doing or what I think it's doing, and just go over the results. And then we'll talk about the pros and cons to this versus a regular filter. Alright, so let's just go over with real quick with what this is doing. And I kind of figured this is what it was doing, but I wasn't sure until I saw this. All right, so for reference purposes, we're just going to pull up the JPEGs and not edit the DNGs right now. All right, so we're going to walk backwards with this. So this is the 4-second shot, and you'll notice that it's just so, the water's moving so fast, it's just one big white blob. But then over here you can see these streamlines. You can see the little streamy bits here, flowy. You can see the flowy bits here off of this. And then if we look in the waterfall, you can see it's mostly smooth, nice flowy bits. Now here is a 1/6 of a second. And this is where you'll start seeing, so now you can start seeing like, you'll see some repetitive patterns in here, like these two bits here, these two bits here, these two bits here. And it looks like the water is stuttering, right? And you'll see it in here, these repetitive patterns right here, right here, right here. All of this is because of how it's blending things. So if you look at this, this is a 1/2 second shot, but with the filter, with a proper neutral density filter that I put over the phone. And this is a 1/2 second. So you'll notice there is no stuttering with the water. It's much smoother and it's more natural flow. And that's because it is natural. The shutter was kept open for a full 1/2 second, and it allowed for the smooth stream of water that you're seeing, versus this is looking more stuttery, staccato, and patterny and pixely, all that stuff. So for reference, here's a shot without any of the ND filters, without the electronic ones turned on, or without a real ND filter. And this was a proper exposure, 1/60th of a second, so you see that water's not smooth. You can see all the detail there. Versus something like this was the 2-second with the ND128 turned on in the phone, the electronic ND128. And that's looking pretty good, actually. So it really depends on the water, the rate of the water that's moving. This water was moving really fast, obviously, so a longer shutter speed or effective shutter speed would really slow that down. So you're not seeing that weird pixeliness. But if we look at this one real quick, never mind how crappy this looks because I had to boost it 3 stops. But this was the first one that I took with the 1/6 of a second and the ND turned on. So you'll notice that pattern again and the repetitiveness of this waterfalling, and that's because it's what it's doing. So I actually made a video about this a long time ago. I made a video on how to do long exposures without filters, and that video was like in 2015 or something, and that was kind of the first video of mine that went viral, or mini viral, whatever. It made my whole channel happen, surprisingly. Fast forward to almost 9 years later, and that's exactly what Samsung and other phone manufacturers have managed to do inside the phone. So the gist of that video is that in Photoshop, you can take a bunch of shorter images, like whatever you can get, 1/10 of a second, 1/60th of a second, whatever. You take all of those photos. The more of them that you take, you can then put them into Photoshop, and then you can blend them together using a certain blend mode, a mean blend mode, and that will average out and create a longer simulated exposure. And then it'll add them all up. So if you take 10 shots at 1/10 of a second, that's 10 tenths of a second. You see where I'm going with this? So that's what they're doing. That's what Samsung is doing in the phone. And this kind of pattern that we're seeing right here is what you get when you blend shorter exposures like that together. And the longer you can blend it, the more photos you can take, and the longer you can blend it, the better that's going to look. And you'll end up with something like this instead. And this was with the electronic filter selected, and this was the 2-second exposure. But for not having an ND filter and not having to need one, and having them built in like this electronically with the new algorithm that Samsung has come up with, I think this is much, much better. The only thing that I will say, like I said out there, is that you can't emulate a circular polarizer. So let's just take a look. Okay, so let's look here. This is again with the electronic ND built in, and if we zoom in a little bit, you can see that pattern. Again, I don't remember if this was let me check. This was the 2-second exposure. So on the wider lens, and we're not going to pay attention to that blown out bit there. On the wider lens, this was the 2-second exposure with the electronic ND filter turned on. you can see that pattern again, and you can see the how it looks jittery or whatever. This is the point I wanted to make about the ND filters, is right here. This, you see the sheen, that's the reflection from the sky up here, and that's what makes the water look glassy. So to get rid of that, like I said already, you need a circular polarizer. This is with one of the Freewell circular polarizers attached, and now it's cutting through that sheen and it's darkening the water, and you can see through the glassy bit, and it looks a lot better. Never mind the fact that it's underexposed. We can just, you know, whatever. Now you can see through the water. You can see the clearness. Everything's looking nice and dark and not shiny. And that's subjective, of course, but it's typically preferred in a lot of longer exposure water landscape images to something like this. Sometimes you want the reflection, but in this case, maybe you wouldn't. Either way, that's subjective. The point is, you can't get rid of this with the electronic filters. You need an actual real filter to get this. All right, so that's kind of a look at what the ND filters are doing and what I think they're doing and how they're doing it. I am definitely impressed. It has its limits, as everything does, and especially everything with phones do. However, I think this is a big leap forward in giving you more creative freedom without having to have more stuff. And I'm a huge proponent of that, just as long as you know its limits. So we know that the longer exposure that you can do, the better. We know that we're going to get that jittery stuff if we're doing kind of the medium or faster shutter speeds. We know that we can't still replicate a circular polarizer. And lastly, the one other thing, like, because you might be tempted to say, oh great, well I never need filters again, and maybe the circular polarizer doesn't bother you and you just want to do the long exposures. Great. These long exposures could also be used for in cityscapes with, you know, light trails and cars going by and all of that kind of stuff. Obviously, I don't live in a city, so I'm not going to be testing that. But the last thing you might think of is, before you think of just getting rid of filters altogether too, if you're interested in video at all and you want to get cinematic video and have that proper frame rate of the, you know, 50th of a second for your 24p, or the, you know, 1/120th of a second for your 60p, these ND filters cannot be applied. These electronic ND filters cannot be applied to the Pro mode in video or to any video at all. So if you want proper cinematic video from your phone, then you're still going to need ND filters and the circular polarizers and the mist filters and all, whatever the filters for whatever the look, for proper cinematic stuff. Now I have a whole video on how to do that and all of the rules and tips and tricks and accessories and everything you need for cinematic video if you're into that. If you don't care about video, then disregard that. So if you don't care about glare and shooting through windows or glassy surfaces like the water and all of that, and you just want to be able to do long exposures, this is a massive leap forward, and this is better than anything Samsung has had ever. So I can't speak to other phone manufacturers because Samsung is the only one that I have. Again, I'm not sponsored by them. I pay for my phones full price. I just pre-ordered the S24 Ultra for Camera Lady, and because it's her turn for the upgrade, I'll still be paying off my stupid S23 Ultra for the next 2 years. But I did just get her the S24 Ultra, and I will be doing a ton of videos, all of the normal stuff with that, testing out all of the new camera features and everything. So if you have any questions about anything about the upcoming S24 or the S23, leave those in the comments below and I will definitely answer them. All right, that's it. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Hit that like button for me. That's the best thing you do for the channel. Check out the channel memberships if you want to support me even more. I also have all of the links in the description below for all of the gear that I use and recommend for getting the most out of your phone photography. So check that stuff out if you need anything. Links are down below. All right, thanks for watching.